congratulate somebody over WrestleMania weekend. Ring of Honor on the house they drew in New Orleans at the Lakefront Arena, which I started running there the last couple of years that Mid-South was around. It's a beautiful building. It seats about right at about 6,000, and they sold it out, which is a hell of a fucking number for anybody. And they have pretty much, at this point, does anybody doubt with their TV reach and the number of live events they run and the houses they draw, they're the number 2 promotion in the United States, and number 3 is not even close. And I don't even know at this point what it would be.
Do you consider NXT a separate promotion, or because it's owned by WWE?
No, okay. anything where Vince McMahon ultimately pays the bills is his promotion, one way or the other. So no, I do not consider that separate.
I guess they would have to be clearly the number 2, yeah.
But and once again, they've made some questionable talent decisions of late recent years. But the TV is clicking. They've got the best roster that is not signed to anybody named Vince McMahon. And they overall, and they work hard, and they've done a good job. But 6,000 people, even WrestleMania weekend, is a hell of a house, because the best they've done is like 3,000 before or whatever. So that I must congratulate them for that. And but at the same time, I see everybody. It's gotten to be a cottage industry now, and once again, a lot of people's standards are suspect, and I'm not going to cover these shows in great detail because that's what they want, because that's the way people hear about them. But they also had the outlaw shows, the play wrestlers out there having fun, and the play marks that run these things having fun. They hire some legitimate talent to work on their shows, and legitimate talent that wants to be seen in this country or wants to be seen on a big stage work on their shows, where they also have the stupid ass fucking bullshit wrestling, play wrestling. One card had 5 men versus 5 women in a tag match, and the 5 women tapped out the 5 men simultaneously. What they actually did an invisible man just because they could, because nobody's there to stop them. There's no adults in the room, and the invisible man bumped people around. And the typical indie outlaw darlings that, stick candy in their dick and fucking dicks in their face or whatever the fuck it is. They worked every show in every closet and phone booth to make dozens and dozens fucking laugh. But who would have thought a Ring of Honor showings blew everybody else away, and they at least have a high level of talent and don't just shit on the business directly, even though they use people that have. But if you'd have told me 30 years ago that 15 wrestling promotions would run New Orleans in a weekend, and the WWF shows would have had the least amount of bullshit and gaga, I would have had you committed. Remember when it was the WWF wrestling that was fucking cartoon? And now every other show except, and I didn't see the Ring of Honor show. I don't know what they did. They would have been one of the only ones that top to bottom apparently would have contained less gaga than the WWE show, because everybody else was doing that man versus woman, dick spot, invisible man, outlaw, fringe, indie bullshit that a bunch of drunk fuckers. You can get 500 drunk fuckers in New Orleans with 100,000 wrestling fans in town to watch chickens fuck, and they literally, it's the same entertainment value, and it would be less messy on the wrestling business. But at least the WWE had some bad fucking wrestling and some silly shit, but at least they didn't do most of it in the ring. I'm astonished that now they've become the serious standard practically. And once again, it would have been Ring of Honor far and away, and I wouldn't have even said that if it was the Ring of Honor a few years ago. But they do have, I don't know if they did any bullshit or not. But
all that shit that you and so many other people hated for so many years, like The Undertaker dying and rising up through the ceiling. For every fan that had been a longtime fan or just a fan with different sensibilities at that point who said that's the silliest thing, the worst thing I've ever seen, there's a whole group of fans who grew up, they were kids, and they saw that. And they think that's what wrestling is, or at least they think that's an acceptable part of wrestling, that kind of hokiness. And I think that's what you see. You see a lot of these kids now who grew up on that early 90s or mid 90s WWF, who they don't care about the silliness as much as someone like me or obviously someone like you.
Well, I guess, because the people, listen to me, I can't even speak. The people on Twitter that tweet, what's the deal? It's wrestling. It's supposed to be silly and fun. What's the deal? It's comedy. It's supposed to be tragic and cause you to want to cut your throat. That doesn't connect to me. That why would you connect one of those things with the other? Or why should you? It doesn't make sense. But at any rate,